The moment I step into the quiet of our home, the air heavy with the scent of Tom's cologne mixed with the faint aroma of the dinner I had left warming in the oven, I know something's off. The routine is too familiar, too much like a well-rehearsed play where Tom and I play our parts as the ever-busy husband and the ever-understanding wife. He's usually buried in spreadsheets by now, his glasses perched on the bridge of his nose, a visual barrier as much as an actual one between us. Then there's me, Jenna, slipping off my nurse's shoes with a sigh, bracing for another evening of monotonous conversations about bills and what's for dinner. Except, tonight, the monotony breaks. Tonight, I don't want to talk about the electric bill or the leaking faucet. My mind's replaying a different scene, one that plays out in the vibrant buzz of a local coffee shop where I met Alex. Alex, with his camera always slung over his shoulder and a smile ready to disarm. We bonded over our shared interests in art and music, things Tom had filed away under Jenna's hobbies. With Alex, my laughter came easier, more genuine. It was refreshing, intoxicating even. The memory of our first kiss rushes back with unexpected intensity. It was one of those cliché scenes right out of a movie. Laughing under a shared umbrella as the rain poured down, the city around us blurring into a backdrop for that moment. It was thrilling, a harmless thrill, I had told myself. But who was I kidding? Making excuses to see Alex became as routine as my shifts at the hospital. Working late again, I'd text Tom, guilt gnawing at me, but excitement silencing it swiftly. Tom's responses, always understanding, never questioning, added layers to my guilt. Was he really that busy, or had we drifted so far apart he didn't care to ask anymore? The small apartment Alex and I rented downtown felt like stepping into a parallel universe. One where I wasn't Jenna, the nurse married to Tom, the accountant. In that space, I allowed myself to forget the vows I had taken, the life I had built. It was our world, separate and secret. But secrets have a way of making themselves known. The day I found a receipt from the apartment in my jacket was the day I thought my world would come crashing down. Tom found it, I'm sure. He had to, yet, he said nothing. Did he know? Was he waiting for me to come clean, or had he simply not pieced it together? I remember brushing off the incident, convincing myself I had dodged a bullet. But as I stand in our kitchen, the silence of our home wrapping around me, I can't help but feel the weight of my actions. Dodging a bullet, maybe. But at what cost? The buzz of my phone cuts through the hum of our dinner conversation, a sudden jolt to the otherwise uneventful evening. I glance at the screen, a flurry of messages from Alex lighting it up, and I feel a twist in my stomach. Just work stuff. I laugh it off, locking the phone and sliding it back into my purse. Tom nods, his fork pausing mid-air, then continues eating. His disinterest is a punch to the gut, a silent reminder of the widening gap between us. The thrill of sneaking around with Alex, once electrifying, begins to sour as he pushes for more. We could have something real, he insists one evening, his eyes searching mine for a commitment I'm not ready to give. We're just having fun, I counter, the words tasting like a lie on my tongue. Alex's smile doesn't reach his eyes as he nods, but the unspoken tension between us thickens. The day I forget my phone at home marks the beginning of the end. Returning to find it on the kitchen counter, I'm immediately struck by a sense of foreboding. The unread messages from Alex glare accusingly from the screen, and Tom's silence that evening is a heavy, suffocating blanket over us. He knows. The thought is a cold, slithering dread in my veins. Tom's behavior shifts subtly in the days that follow. He starts coming home late, his presence in the house like a ghost, our conversations dwindling to nothing. The discovery of a brochure for a couple's retreat in his car adds layers to my guilt. He's trying, in his own way, and I'm destroying us. The guilt becomes a constant companion, gnawing at me, urging me to end the affair. I promise myself I'll do it, but when faced with Alex, the words stick in my throat. Next time, I tell myself, a mantra of procrastination that buys me momentary peace but deepens the pit inside me. Then, out of nowhere, Tom asks, "Are you happy?" The question catches me off guard, a simple inquiry that feels like an accusation. I stumble over my words, a mess of half-truths and deflections. He looks at me, really looks at me, and for a moment, I see the man I married, the depth of his pain mirrored in his eyes. He doesn't press further, but the question hangs between us, a chasm too wide to bridge with words. The chapter of our lives together is fraying, threads pulling loose with every lie, every secret meeting. The thrill of the affair has lost its sheen, replaced by the stark reality of my choices. Tom's question echoes in my mind, a reminder of what's at stake. Am I happy? The answer is as complex as the web of lies I've woven, a tangle of emotion and regret that binds me tighter with every passing day. The moment I make up my mind to end things with Alex, it feels like I'm standing at the edge of a cliff, the ground crumbling under my feet. I can't do this anymore, I whisper across the table at our favorite secluded spot, the words hanging heavy between us. Alex looks at me, hurt flashing across his face before he masks it with a nod. I understand, he says, but his voice betrays the pain he's trying to hide. The finality of the moment is suffocating. The very next day, a bouquet of flowers arrives at my work, their beauty a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. The note attached reads, "I'll always be here for you," and I can almost hear Alex's voice in my head. My colleague shoots me a curious look, eyebrow raised in unspoken question. I brush it off with a forced smile and bury myself in my work, the flowers a bittersweet reminder of what I'm trying to leave behind. Meanwhile, Tom starts making efforts that catch me off guard. One evening, he pulls out a playlist of songs from bands I hadn't heard in years, a clumsy but earnest attempt to connect over my love for music. Another day, he suggests visiting a gallery showcasing modern art, something I've always enjoyed but rarely shared with him. It's as if he's trying to stitch the growing gap between us with threads of shared interests, and it's both heartwarming and heartbreaking. Caught in this emotional tug of war, I vow to distance myself from Alex, hoping the space will dull the sharp edges of my feelings for him. But it's not easy. Memories of our time together linger, unbidden and unwelcome, in the quiet moments of my day. Then, Tom surprises me with concert tickets, a band I offhandedly mentioned months ago. The gesture is so thoughtful, so unlike him, it brings tears to my eyes. "I thought we could use a night out," he says, handing me the tickets with a shy smile. It's a moment of raw vulnerability, and it makes my heart ache for the pain I've caused. Determined to mend the fractures in our marriage, I throw myself into our relationship with renewed vigor. We explore the city like tourists, trying new restaurants and laughing together in a way we haven't in years. For the first time in months, I feel a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, we can find our way back to each other. But then, a message from Alex shatters the fragile peace I've been clinging to. "I miss us," it reads, and my heart constricts at the words. I delete the message without replying, a knot of guilt and regret forming in my stomach. The choice I've made is clear, but the path to healing is fraught with reminders of the past I'm trying to leave behind. As I navigate this maze of emotions, I'm constantly reminded of the consequences of my actions. The effort to rebuild my marriage with Tom is a daily commitment, a promise to myself and to him that I'm all in, even as shadows of my affair with Alex threaten to darken the fragile new beginning we're trying to carve out together. The moment I see Tom's laptop screen, an icy dread clutches at my heart. An email, glaringly open, with the subject line "Investigation Findings," and my name mentioned alongside Alex's. I snap the laptop shut, my hands trembling, my mind racing. How long has he known? The secrets I've been tucking away in the darkest corners of my conscience are about to come into the merciless light of day. I'm barely through the door when the new reality hits me. Tom is there, waiting in the living room that's now a stage for the unraveling of our lives. Photographs, emails, texts, the artifacts of my betrayal are spread out before him, a silent accusation. My breath catches in my throat as I take in the scene, the evidence of my infidelity laid bare in the most brutal way imaginable. Tom's voice is calm, eerily so, as he asks me to sit. "I've known for weeks," he says, and the weight of those words crushes me. He talks about the private investigator, the messages on my phone that first raised his suspicions, his voice steady but his hands betraying a slight tremor. The room feels cold, the air between us charged with a tension that's palpable. I stumble through apologies, explanations, excuses, but they sound hollow even to my own ears. Tom listens, his face a mask of stoicism, but his eyes, they're filled with a hurt so deep it makes my own heart ache in response. "I just want to understand why," he says, and the question is a knife to my already bleeding conscience. Was it something I did? His vulnerability in that moment is more devastating than any anger could have been. The conversation that follows is a blur of tears and whispered regrets. Tom tells me he's arranged for me to stay at a friend's place. He needs space, time to think, to decide what comes next for us, if there's even an left to consider. The finality in his voice is a clear indication of how far we've drifted, how much damage has been done. Moving out is a surreal experience. The life we built together, now fragmenting with every step I take away from our home. I reach out to Alex in a moment of weakness, looking for comfort in the very place that brought me here. But even he's pulling away, suggesting perhaps it's for the best. The isolation is complete. Hearing that Tom is seeing a therapist hits me harder than I expect. He's grappling with the betrayal, trying to find a way through the pain I've caused. It's a reminder of the depth of the hurt, the complexity of the emotions involved. I attempt to reach out to Tom, to bridge the chasm that's opened up between us. But the conversations are stilted, polite to the point of being impersonal. He's courteous, but distant, a clear sign that the man I married, the man I hurt, is retreating behind walls I might never breach again. This chapter of our lives, once filled with shared dreams and laughter, is closing. The realization is a bitter pill, each moment of attempted reconciliation a stark reminder of what's been lost. The path forward is uncertain, shrouded in the fog of regret in the painful process of coming to terms with the consequences of my choices. The day my birthday came and went without a word from Tom was the day I knew with piercing clarity, he had moved on. The silence was a chasm, echoing louder in my heart than any words of anger or betrayal could have. It was the sound of a door closing, softly but irrevocably, on a chapter of our lives I had never imagined would end this way. I heard about Tom's promotion at work through the tangled grapevine that still connected us, albeit loosely. He was excelling, diving into his career with a zeal I hadn't seen in years. It was a bittersweet realization, knowing that in some twisted way, my betrayal had propelled him to find success in other areas of his life. It was a small comfort, overshadowed by the vastness of our personal tragedy. Around the same time, Alex decided to move to another city. His parting message to me was laced with apologies and wishes for my happiness. It was a kind gesture, but it only served to underline the finality of our separation. The adventure had ended, leaving behind a trail of destruction and a heart heavy with regret. In the quiet that followed, I found myself missing the ordinary moments with Tom more than the fleeting excitement I'd sought with Alex. The morning coffee we shared in silence, the soft sound of his laughter from another room, the warmth of his hand in mine during a movie. These memories haunted me, a constant reminder of what I'd lost. The inevitability of our divorce became real when Tom filed the papers. They arrived with a note from him, a simple message wishing me well and expressing hope that I would find what I was looking for. Reading his words, I felt a surge of emotions, gratitude for his kindness, sorrow for the pain I'd caused, and a deep, unyielding regret. The proceedings were straightforward, a procedural dance executed with clinical efficiency by our lawyers. Tom and I were like two ships passing in the night, close enough to see the lights but too far to bridge the distance. Our communication was relegated to the necessary exchanges, devoid of emotion, a stark contrast to the life we once shared. Therapy became my refuge, a place to unravel the tangled web of my desires and fears. It was there I began to understand the root of my actions, the longing for excitement that had led me to risk everything we had built. The sessions were painful, each one a step towards confronting the reality of my choices and the impact they had on the people I loved. When the divorce was finalized, the feeling was indescribable, a mix of relief and profound sadness. Tom and I exchanged a brief, emotionless goodbye, a formal end to what had been a vibrant, loving partnership. As I walked away, the finality of the moment weighed heavily on me. It was the end of our story, a tale of love and loss, of choices and consequences. The journey ahead was uncertain, a path I would have to navigate alone, carrying the lessons of the past and the hope for a future built on the foundation of those hard-learned truths. The decision to leave wasn't easy, but the pull of a fresh start was irresistible. Each corner of our old town was a ghost, a memory of a life I once cherished. Packing up my life into boxes felt like closing a book I couldn't bear to read anymore. So, I turned the page to a new city, a place where no one knew my story or the mistakes I'd made. Starting over isn't just about a new address, it's about rebuilding from the ground up. I landed a job that, on paper, seemed like a fresh start. The work is challenging, engaging, even fulfilling at times. Yet, when the office empties and the sun dips below the skyline, the solitude of my new life envelopes me. The silence of my apartment is a stark contrast to the life I used to know, filled with shared dinners and whispered conversations in the dark. One afternoon, amidst the stack of mundane mail, I find an elegantly designed wedding invitation. My heart skips a beat as I see Tom's name, intertwined with someone else's. The reality of his life moving on without me is there, in black and white. The invitation is a tangible symbol of the finality of our separation, a confirmation that the life we shared is truly in the past. That night, I find myself sifting through old photos, each snapshot a piercing reminder of the happiness we once had. The weight of my choices sits heavy on my chest as I wander through the memories, mourning not just for what was, but for what could have been. It's a night of reflection, of sorrow, and of acceptance. In the weeks that follow, I seek solace in painting, a hobby I'd always pushed aside for someday. Brushstrokes become my language, the canvas my confidant. With each piece, I find a piece of myself, a way to process the tumultuous journey of my emotions. Painting becomes not just a hobby, but a lifeline, a way to connect to parts of myself I thought were lost. Occasionally, updates about Tom filter through the grapevine of mutual friends. Hearing about his happiness is a double-edged sword. On one hand, I'm genuinely glad for him. On the other, each update is a reminder of the void his absence has left in my life. Eventually, I dip my toes back into the dating world, but the waters are cold, uninviting. Each date feels like a pale imitation of the connection I had with Tom. The comparisons are inevitable, each laugh that doesn't quite reach my eyes, every conversation that skirts around the depth we shared. It's clear that moving on isn't just about geography or new experiences, it's a deeper, more challenging journey. This chapter of my life is marked by growth, by the painful but necessary process of moving forward. There are moments of profound loneliness, but also flashes of hope, glimpses of a future where the pain of the past is a distant memory. It's a path fraught with challenges, but also with opportunities for rediscovery. As I navigate this new life, I hold on to the belief that each step forward, no matter how small, is a step towards healing, towards a future where I can look back without regret. The moment I step into the wedding venue, a wave of emotions crashes over me. It's a surreal feeling, attending the wedding of my ex-husband, Tom, a gesture of goodwill on my part but also a step towards finding closure. Watching him, so obviously happy and in love, is a punch to the gut, yet it brings with it an unexpected sense of peace. This is his new beginning, and it's time for me to truly accept that. The ceremony and the celebrations that follow are a blur of smiling faces and heartfelt toasts, a vivid tableau of the life Tom has moved on to. It forces me to confront the reality of our past and the role my own unhappiness played in it. Standing there, amidst the joy and the laughter, I come to a stark realization. The affair was never about what I was running towards, but what I was running from. It was a symptom, not the cause, of my deeper discontent. In the weeks that follow, I find a new avenue for healing, volunteering at a local shelter. It's there, among the faces of those who have endured so much, that I start to find a semblance of purpose. Each act of kindness, each moment of connection, feels like a small step towards forgiving myself, towards rebuilding the parts of me that were lost in the chaos of my own making. Then, the news arrives, as unexpected as a cold splash of water. Tom and his new wife are expecting a child. The emotions that well up are complex, a tangled web of joy for them and a poignant sense of finality for what once was. It marks the end of our story, a chapter conclusively closed, leaving room for new beginnings. Selling the apartment we once shared feels like the last piece of the puzzle. Walking through the empty rooms, I'm struck by the silence, a stark reminder of the life that used to fill these spaces. It's a tangible release, letting go of the last physical tie to my old life, to the person I once was. The sale is a quiet affair, but the closure it brings is loud, resonating deep within me. Finally, I sit down and write a letter to Tom. It's not a plea for forgiveness. I know that some actions are beyond redemption. Instead, it's an offering of my own forgiveness, an acknowledgement of the pain I caused and a sincere wish for his happiness. I seal the envelope, knowing I may not get a response, and in a way, not needing one. It's a symbol of my readiness to move forward, to embrace the lessons learned and the growth achieved. As I drop the letter in the mailbox, a sense of finality washes over me. It's the end of a chapter filled with love, loss, and learning. But as one chapter ends, another begins. Standing there, I feel the weight of the past lifting, making room for a future filled with possibilities. It's not just an ending, it's a new beginning, a chance to build something beautiful on the foundation of lessons learned. The road ahead is uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I'm ready to see where it leads.